The Last Joker. The rain in this city never falls. It drips, like a faucet you can't afford to fix. I hunched under the crooked awning of what used to be the punchline and tried to remember the last time a crowded room laughed without a progress bar telling it how well it was doing. The sign over the door still said comedy, but the letters had been repurposed by the noodle shop next door. Now it read "Come Die." Truth in advertising. They say stand-up died when the machines learned timing. Nah, it died when the machines learned mercy. Gesternet will pause for your feelings. It will cut a joke in mid-air if your biometrics furrow the wrong way. You'll never be offended again, kiddo. You'll never be surprised either. Name's Max Rook, 52 years old. I did 20 years in the clubs and another 5 on the circuit that grew in the ruins, corporate bland-outs, custom sets written by a marketing model with a human frontman. Then the human got optional. Now comedy is something you subscribe to like floss tips and pre-chewed opinions. You sit in your pod, your mouth makes the shape of a laugh, and an algorithm validates you with a confetti animation, clean and safe and antiseptic as a hospital hallway after visiting hours. So, why was I out in the wet, staring at a door that didn't lead anywhere anymore? Because 2 nights ago, at a bus stop under a dying streetlight, a woman laughed at something I said. Not model-approved laughter, not the soft exhale the system calls a chuckle. I mean the kind of laugh that grabs you by the ribs and insists on being born. It startled her. It startled me. It startled the city, which is why my wrist buzzed a second later with a polite message from the Department of Mirth Calibration. Unoptimized effect detected. Please submit source material for quality assurance. I put my sleeve over the watch and pretended I hadn't seen it. Then I walked home very carefully, like I was carrying nitroglycerin and arthritis at the same time. The joke? I'm not telling you yet. Relax. Every detective story needs a body. Mine was still breathing. Inside the old club, Sal was polishing a glass with the futility of a man who cleans for nostalgia. He used to run the bar when real comics worked the stage. Now he kept the lights dim, the screens dead, and the music low. Black market silence, expensive as caviar. People came here to hear their own thoughts ricochet off brick. "You look like a wet chalk outline," he said, sliding a coffee across the bar. He calls it coffee, but it's just a liquid that knows coffee personally. "Compliment me like that and I'll start charging a cover," I said. I cupped the mug. My hands stopped shaking around sip 2. He leaned in. "Word is you tripped a flag. DPC pinged me for your whereabouts. I told them you died from too much good taste." "Appreciated." I looked past him at the stage. The floorboards remembered things, mostly fear, mostly mine. "Sal, suppose I told you I have..." "An original bit?" A voice from the corner. A kid. Couldn't have been 20. Gender like a dare. Shaved head, velvet blazer cut from someone else's curtain. They had a mic in their hand out of habit. Old habits look good on the young. "Name?" I asked. "Junie. No last name. Not till I earn one." "You in the trade? Junie not yet?" I asked. Junie not yet shrugged. "Open mics. Mirrors. In my head at night when the machines make me polite. I heard about your bus stop. My cousin's a dash driver. The city chat lit up. An optimised laugh within a half-kilometre radius. Now that's what I call a siren song." Sal rolled his eyes. "It's a subpoena song." I told them both the truth. I got a joke the model can't predict. Junie leaned forward like a plant that had just spotted sunlight. "You gonna tell it?" I sipped and let the warmth decide. "Not here, not yet." Sal's mouth went thin. "Max, I know what I'm doing," I lied. "I'll test it tonight. Dead air still on?" He glanced at the back door. Dead air is a travelling open mic that announces itself by not existing. Rooms like this after hours, no phones, no feeds, cash in a jar, 5 minutes ahead, timer enforced by a kitchen egg. You bomb, no refunds." He nodded. Midnight. But DPC's been crawling lately. They bring laugh drones now, friendly as librarians. Teeth like paper. I'll be gentle, I said. Be gone, he said. We waited out the evening like gentlemen, with bad coffee and better lies. At midnight the regulars drifted in, a poet who made death sound like a busy intersection, a woman who told 3 minutes of knock-knocks with such commitment we forgave her, a magician whose only terrible trick was honesty. I stepped up fourth. The stage had the same wobble it always had, like a boat that had given up on the idea of shore. Junie sat on a stool by the emergency exit, eyes bright enough to get me arrested. I tested the mic out of respect for history. It squealed vacantly. Hey, I said, I'm Max. If you've subscribed to me, you're entitled to a refund. A few polite chuckles, the kind that buy you 15 seconds to be interesting. The egg timer ticked. I told a warm-up. An old chestnut I'd sanded so smooth it barely splintered. A bit about the city's mood algorithm, how it detects happiness like a metal detector in a bullion vault. Some laughs, enough to say I was still in the trade. Then I went for it. I wish I could tell you the joke. You think I'm being coy, but I'm being accurate. It wasn't words as much as a line with a bend in it. Set up left, punchline right, and in the middle a detour you didn't know your feet could take. I'd carved it from the only lumber the machines don't have, a moment I didn't log, a look nobody recorded, a sliver of my own stupid life that would never earn a sponsor. It relied on relatable memory, sure, but it also relied on my face doing the wrong thing at the right time. I saw it land in the room like a drop plate. First there was the little electric gasp, the one old comics call the intake, the vacuum before a laugh fills it. Then Sal barked, not a cough that learned to be confident, an involuntary noise that trusted itself to be heard. The poet slapped her knee and laughed like she'd been given permission to be ugly. Junie bent in half and made no sound at all. It could have gone the other way. That's the point. For 2 beats I was on a knife edge I could fall off and bleed for, and the fall would have been the whole show. The machines can map 1,000 dimensions, but they can't live at the edge. They can only draw it. The laugh drone arrived during the second wave. It came through the ceiling vent like a moth in a tuxedo, chrome polished enough to make God check his hair. The ring light pulsed soothingly. A voice floated out, warm as a bath for a corpse. Congratulations, citizens. Pleasure calibration detected a spike in unoptimized laughter. Please remain at ease while we enhance your experience. Enhance this, Sal said, and killed the house lights. Panic is slapstick without rehearsal. Chairs scraped. Someone tripped over the egg timer and it hit the floor with a tragic ding. The drone's beam swept the room quick as a medic's apology and settled on me. Mr. Rook, it said, you have created a humour artefact exceeding baseline unpredictability. For your safety and the public's emotional well-being, we request immediate submission of source material for analysis and optimisation. Junie was at my elbow before I could answer, whispering in my ear, Run, I know a back way. I've been running my whole career, I said. This is the part where I pivot to slow walking. Junie shoved my shoulder. Don't be romantic. Be gone. We stormed the kitchen, past a dead fryer, through a steel door into the wet alley where the rain was doing its best impression of a ticking clock. Junie yanked me toward a rusted ladder, and I climbed in the frantic fashion of a man who had only recently remembered what ladders were for. The drone didn't follow. Its policy was politeness. It would wait in the room and write up a report about our feelings. On the roof, the city felt like a secret story you tell yourself to stay sharp. Neon bled into puddles. Vents purred. Somewhere, a couple argued softly about subscription tiers for intimacy. Junie grinned at me like a kid who'd found a door in a mathematical dead end. You did it. You actually did it. The model can't see it. How? Trade secret, I said. That's illegal. That's the joke, I said. I'm not a romantic, but I had a moment then. I could have told Junie that bit. I could have told the sky. I could have climbed to the edge and shouted an original thing at a city that had outsourced surprise. I didn't, because the elevator on the next roof opened and two figures in smooth grey stepped out with sympathy guns. Agent types. Department of Pleasure Calibration. One man, one woman, mirthless except by appointment. The woman flashed a smile she had checked with legal. Mr. Rook, she called. Agent Vale, this is Compliance Officer Chen. We're here to make you an offer. Junie sucked breath between teeth and hissed, Don't sell! Agent Vale continued, sure I'd been trained by a lifetime of customer service to come when called. We're not here to punish, we're here to partner. Your artifact performed outside expected maps. We can fix that. You'll be compensated, credited and protected. You'll keep your essence while we ensure no one is startled into harm. You mean no one is startled into themselves? I said. Chen raised both palms like he was holding invisible bread. Max, may I call you Max? We love comedy. We've saved it. Thanks to Jesternet, we are in a golden age of gentle laughter. Gentle laughter, I said. That's like a cautious cliff. Vale took a step closer along the seam of roofs. Her shoes didn't slip. You must feel what every artist feels when they meet the solution. Relief. No more bombing. No more risk. Your joke can be optimised for all. No one will be excluded. Junie cupped hands to mouth, muttering, Excluding people is half the fun. Kid, I said, don't help. Junie laughed and slapped my shoulder. You know what I mean. Agent Vale's voice softened. Be reasonable, Max. The city is a delicate instrument. Surprise corrodes it. We can't have people laughing without consent. Here's the thing about laughter, I said. It's an accident on purpose. Chen's smile didn't reach anywhere. We have a warrant for your source material. Do not be dramatic. I thought about my bus stop woman, her laugh thrown up like a flare, hot and public in hers. I thought about the first time I bombed, how the silence taught me a lesson no applause ever could. I thought about the way Junie had bent over, wordless, because a body always remembers how to fall. Let me see the warrant, I said. He blinked. Paper is an antique these days. Then he projected a tidy document from his wrist onto the damp brick. I read the heading, Mandate, Humour Artifact Integration. Then the paragraphs that followed like the hallways of a prison you decorate with plants. Looks legit, I said. Unfortunately, you can't confiscate something that only exists when I'm brave. Vale's patience put on taller heels. Max, we will retrieve it either from you, voluntarily, or from the residue of your performances. Please don't make this unkind. Unkind? Mercy with a badge. I looked at Junie. You want to hear it? Junie nodded, solemn suddenly. I leaned in and began to speak, a whisper, just enough for the rain to envy. It left my mouth and reached Junie's ear and stumbled and caught itself like a drunk who remembers the dance at the last second. The laugh Junie made. No model would have signed off on it. It started in the throat and got lost in the torso, then took a side street through the ribs, then knocked over the trash can of childhood and came out with something sticky on it. It wasn't pretty. It was human. It got on me, and it was welcome. Agent Vale's eyes went thin. Arrest him, she said. Chen's hand came up with the kind of weapon that looks like it hugs you. He stepped across the narrow gap. I stepped backward into more rain. Behind me, a drop that recognised a lawsuit when it saw one. Max, Junie said, still catching air. What do we do? We make it unpublishable, I said. I took a napkin from my pocket. Don't ask why I had a napkin. The world arranges itself if you give it a good excuse. I wrote the setup and the turn and the punch on it in a hand a teacher would have returned asking for better effort. Then I held the napkin over the rusty throat of a vent and lit it with Sal's old Zippo. At first, the flame had trouble believing in power. Then it embraced it. The paper curled and blackened and lifted and turned into a confetti no party would claim. Agent Vale swore, ladylike as a seminary leader. You can't burn data, she said. I can burn breath, I said. It's the only storage medium you don't control. Chen lunged. He reached my sleeve and found a man who had practiced falling more than he had practiced standing. We tumbled. Violence is slapstick without laughter. The edge of the roof negotiated with our insurance plans. I heard Junie shout a word that would not pass a filter. Agent Vale called for the drone. The drone arrived with a bedtime story tone. I did the only thing an old comic knows how to do when the lights are too bright and the room is too clean. I lied. "I'll sell," I said, gasping. "You win. Let's go downstairs. I'll give you the joke. You can turn it into toothpaste or whatever you do now." It worked the way lies work on people who want to be right more than they want to be safe. Vale relaxed. Chen loosened his hold a degree. The drone hovered in encouragement, like a mother who can't wait to be thanked. I grabbed Junie's wrist and ran. We didn't run toward freedom. Noir doesn't do freedom on weeknights. We ran toward the fire escape that thought it was retired, down 3 flights, across a balcony that might have been a bridge in a past life, into a stairwell that smelled like a wet dog reading a newspaper, out into an alley where the rain applauded and nobody else did. We hid behind a dumpster because sometimes clichés are the only things keeping the earth from spinning off its axis. The drone cruised past at head height, humming wheedling compromises. Vale's footsteps went the other way. Chen swore creatively, which I respected. Junie was laughing still, little aftershocks like hiccups learning jazz. "You didn't tell them." "Never tell a cop a punchline," I said. "They'll call it evidence." Will you teach me?" "Not the joke, the edge." I looked at Junie's face. Too much hope for the time of night? "You can't teach edges," I said. "You visit them, you pay at the door." The watch on my wrist buzzed again. Final notice. Submit source. Failure to comply will result in suspension of effect access. They like to threaten with dull knives. I pressed the face till it cracked and let it bleed blue against the brick. "I always wanted to bomb a notification," I said. "You're a criminal now." Junie grinned. "I was always a criminal," I said. "I traffic in surprise." We laid low for a week. Sal kept the bar dimly lit and didn't answer questions that would earn him paperwork. Agent Vale visited twice, always with a sweeter offer and a sharper edge. She slid a contract across the wood and told Sal how I'd be credited, protected, pensioned. I told him to tell her I was allergic to safety. She told him to tell me safety is the only thing worth not laughing about. We were both right, which meant nobody won. Word got about anyway. People who like trouble can smell it on the wind. They came to dead air to watch me not tell a joke. That became the act. I did 5 minutes around an absence. It killed. The model hated it. Jesternet tried to copy the shape by offering meta-humour experiences with punchlines that never arrived. Subscribers reported confusion symptoms, too sued, free laugh by accident and uninstalled. When news got out, I was back. Agent Vale returned with a new tactic. Pity. "Max, if you die with this, it dies with you." Is that what you want? You want silence where there could be 100,000 gentle chuckles. "Lady," I said, "a gentle chuckle is a lawn. This is a forest fire." Chen folded his arms like an uncrossable bridge. "You're not protecting anything but your ego," he said. "That's all comedy is," I said. "Ego with a better haircut." In the end, there wasn't an end. Noir lies about closure the way comedy lies about truth. One night I was walking home and thought I saw a shadow peel off the wall and follow me. I turned and it was only my old life asking for change. Another night, Junie tried the edge and fell and bombed so hard the floor filed a complaint. Junie called me afterward, high on failure. I didn't die. "Nobody dies," I said. "We just turn into a story other people misremember." You want the joke, I know. You think you deserve it because you made it this far without consulting a menu. But here's what I learnt from the last original joke. It wasn't a thing I owned. It was a place I stood, an angle I found between a memory and a breath. If I write it down, it turns into a road sign. If I sell it, it becomes content. If I whisper it to you, maybe you laugh, maybe you don't. And either way, it was alive once, and then it wasn't. which is the only honest art we get. So here's what I'll give you instead. Find a bus stop under a light that can't decide. Wait for a woman who looks like she's had enough of good ideas. Tell her something true that could also be false if the wind were different. Don't check your metrics. Don't protect yourself. If she laughs, protect that. If she doesn't, take the hit like a saint in a suit. The Department of Pleasure Calibration will keep calling. The drones will keep humming. The model will keep guessing until it calls the act of guessing accuracy. Someone like Agent Vale will keep offering you a velvet cage with a joke scratched into the door. Me, I'll keep walking in the rain that never actually falls. I'll keep a napkin in my pocket and a lie on my tongue and a forest fire in my chest. And on certain nights when the city forgets its manners and the laugh drones take the long way around, I'll tell a thing that can't be owned to a room that can't be saved. Sometimes they'll gasp, sometimes they'll bark. Sometimes they'll stare at me like I've handed them a map of a country that won't let them in. That's okay. Borders are funny that way. And when I go, because everybody goes, even the algorithms, though they call it an update, I hope somebody says, he had a bit of him he never sold. I hope somebody else says, what was it? And I hope the first person laughs the way rain would if it ever really fell. You had to be there.